You're listening to the Mindful Mama podcast, episode number 243. Today is a special bonus episode, a letter to myself as a young mom. Welcome to the Mindful Mama podcast. Here, it's about becoming a less irritable, more joyful parent. At Mindful Mama, we know that you cannot give what you do not have, and when you've calm and peace within, then you can give it to your children. I'm your host, Hunter Clark Fields, Mindful Mama Mentor. I help smart, thoughtful parents stay calm so they can have strong, connected relationships with their children. I've been practicing mindfulness for over 20 years. I'm the creator of the Mindful Parenting membership, and I'm the author of Raising Good Humans, a mindful guide to breaking the cycle of reactive parenting and raising kind, confident kids. Welcome back to the podcast, my friend. I am so glad to be here, be in your ears. Welcome. If you're new, welcome. Glad you're here. And this is a special episode. And most of the time, I love interviewing other people. It's really fun. But today I wanted to just talk to you. And wanted to share with you a special letter to my younger self, myself as a younger mom that I put together. And I've been thinking about, right now it's such a hard time. In the United States anyway, the world is and there's so much uncertainty, the pandemic, many of us feel stuck and trapped. And there's just this level of anxiety, kind of underlying level of anxiety that's there. And I'm feeling it too. I'm dealing with it too. And I talk about a little bit in this about the tools I use to deal with this. But in this time of uncertainty, I think it's really important to focus on to make this right effort, to be diligent in focusing our attention on the places we can have positive impact. And there's a circle of influence that you have, and that circle of influence starts with you and your own mind and heart. And so this letter addresses my younger self and that circle of influence. So I invite you to dive into this and some takeaways that I want you to hear kind of as I thought about what are the important messages in this piece that I want you to listen for. And that was, there's nothing wrong with you. Whether you're suffering, however you're suffering, there's nothing wrong with you. Also, there is a path to freedom. There's a path to more joy and more freedom and less anxiety. And it is the most important work you can do for many reasons, but especially for our children and for the world. So I'm excited for you to dive into this letter. Before I do, I want to remind you that I have a small group coaching program called the Mindful Mama Transformation Coaching Group. We are starting soon. I'm so happy to be opening this at this specific time because it's a crazy world out there, and I can at least take 6 amazing women and walk you through the tools and the strategies and the path to becoming more grounded, more peaceful, to communicating amazingly with your kids and your partner, and to be living the life that you want to be living. And Mindful Mama Transformation Coaching Group brings you through this over the course of about 4.5 months. And we are going to be starting soon. And it's not for everybody. It's just a very small group. But if you're interested, please go to mindfulmamamentor.com/group coaching, or just reach out to me. I always get on the phone with everybody who is invited into the group. So mindfulmamamentor.com/group coaching to see if there are any spots left and if it might be right for you. Okay, now let's dive into this letter to myself as a young mom. Hey, dear listener, I am so glad you are here today. I'm putting out this special bonus episode because I just wanted to reach out to you. And I was thinking about myself as a younger parent. I was thinking about how I felt then and what I would say to myself if I could at that point. And so I wrote myself a little letter. I wrote myself a letter to my younger self. And I invite you to think about this, this sense of perspective can be really helpful. Or yourself now may be speaking to that person you were 10 years ago when we step out into that sense of perspective, we get some wisdom. But anyway, I just want to share this with you, and I hope that it helps. So dear younger me, dear mama, oh my goodness, this whole parenting journey is filled with so much for you. This is so important to you. And you're scared, and you're overwhelmed, and you feel alone. And you want so badly to do it right, to do it better, to really, really show up for this incredible, amazing little human being and do what's right for her. And I know that you're frightened that you'll, fail. And that the truth is that there are ways that you can. I think this is why this is so important to you, that there are many damaged relationships in the world and many anxious, insecure, angry people in the world, and that this really, really matters. How you show up, this really matters. And I want this letter to help you understand that this feeling of, oh my goodness, this is so important. Oh my goodness, I don't want to fail at this, can be a powerful catalyst for change. And it doesn't have to be a fear that overwhelms you. There's nothing wrong with you. I want you to have this message, dear younger self. There's nothing wrong with you. You're scared, overwhelmed, you feel alone, and you know what? So many other people do. It's scary. It's isolating, and it's overwhelming to raise a young person. There's so much to learn, so much that we weren't taught. We were never given the roadmap to how to raise, emotionally stable people who are comfortable in their own skin. We've only been given the roadmap for, obedience, which doesn't necessarily lead to some great outcomes. So I want to let you know that there's nothing wrong with you, and there is work to do. There is. And the work is to not pass on your own hurts. And it starts with you. It starts with that inner circle of your heart and mind, and trusting and loving yourself. So dear younger self, you have an instinct, a wisdom that this is really vital work. And it is. It's the most important thing you could be doing. So I invite you to consider that it starts with you. It starts with your mind and heart. These are the innermost rings of the circle in which your influence can spread out wider from there. And it starts with forgiveness and self-compassion. I want you to understand that your reactivity, your frustration, your anxiety, your anger, it's not your fault. It's not even your parents' fault. It's not their parents' fault. We all have so much suffering. We've been passed on so much suffering. Our parents who may have had anger and fear and unwholesome characteristics, they did it out of suffering. So start with forgiveness. Start with forgiving yourself for your flaws and your insecurities and your anger, because we can't fight anger with anger. We have to open ourselves up and open our hearts wide to allow it, to embrace it, to take care of it, to forgive ourselves for it. And that's the beginning. You cannot give what you do not have. So if we want to give that compassion, that love, that openness, if we want to transform that, it's not something we fight. It's something that we soften, something that we make room for. It's something that we start to treat like a gardener, right? We do some selective watering. We selectively water the good seeds and we don't water those weeds. But we start with you. Start with your mind and your heart. Start with these innermost rings and know that as you work with you, that we are interconnected, that we are, and you, starting with you, shows so much to your child. You must live what you want your child to learn. You must live it. You must start with your own mind and heart and transform that first. We are interconnected and you are responsible for your piece of the whole. And as you create more peace for yourself, you truly do create more peace for everyone, especially your child, So dear younger self, start with forgiveness, start with self-compassion, cut yourself some slack. This is not easy. But when you start with forgiveness and self-compassion, then you can do due diligence and you can do the work. You can have right effort, the right kind of effort, an effort that acknowledges your wholeness and your beauty and your light and builds on that rather than tries to stomp you out. So dear younger self, this is not just mental and emotional work. This is not just spiritual work. This is physical, biological work. There's a story, a Zen story, that exemplifies this so well. So a horse suddenly came galloping quickly down the road. It seemed as though the man had somewhere important to go. Another man who's standing alongside the road shouted, "Where are you going?" And the man with the horse replied, "I don't know. Ask the horse." And this is the story about our habit energy. Our habits, our brain takes shortcuts, our body and minds, they learn a certain way. We've been conditioned by our families, by our societies to think a certain way and act a certain way. And we've done this all of our lives. So this is how we continue, right? We're busy in a hurry because that's the way life is. We have to be perfect, not accepting our own humanity because that's how we grew up. We threaten our kids with punishment because that's how our parents did it. And this is this habitual living. This is that horse of habitual living, and it's taking us places we don't want to go. Busyness, feeling never good enough, having hostile, irritated relationships with our kids. And so I invite you to remember that this is a physical, biological shift as well, a physical, biological transformation. It takes mindset shifts, it takes practice, and it takes support from others. It takes help. It's not something we do alone. But this idea of the mental training of mindfulness, everything goes through your mind, dear younger self. So everything goes through your mind and your heart. So mental training is really, really important. All our perceptions are filtered through our minds. And so we have to start to clear our minds, clear the slate. And this is where mindfulness comes in. And mindfulness, of course, is the intention to place your attention in the present moment with a sense of kindness and curiosity, non-judgment. And it's a practice. It's a rigorous mental practice, but has so many benefits, dear self. You have an instinct for this. You are reaching for it. So ground yourself in this. It will help enormously. Mindfulness, it helps us to sleep better. It improves our immune system. It gives us clearer thinking. It helps us have less depression, less anxiety. There's so many studies that show this. The jury is in. It reduces anxiety attacks and it makes you happier. mindfulness can help us increase that serotonin production, improve your mood and your behavior. And it'll also help you reduce your reactivity. And that is a big part of your work to your younger self. There's that Viktor Frankl quote that says, in between stimulus and response, there is a space. And it's true that space is where the freedom is. And that space is the key to all. And that's how mindfulness mental training trains our hearts and our minds to have clarity in that little bit of space. And it is spiritual work, it is emotional work, and it is physical, biological work. As you sit, dear self, as you make that time for your self-care, as you make time to take care of yourself and to offer yourself loving connection and time, you're literally changing the shape of your brain. You're shrinking your fight, flight, or freeze response, growing thicker your prefrontal cortex, where your logical, thoughtful responses reside, your verbal part of your brain, your higher order thinking, all that. So it's not just spiritual. It's not just mental, it's not just emotional. The work is physical and biological. You need to immerse yourself in it. You need mindset shifts, you need practice, and you need support. This is a marathon, not a sprint, dear self. You are allowed to stumble along the way. You just get back up and just start again. But keep going, dear younger me. Please, please keep going. Dear younger me, or dear younger mom, wherever you are, dad, do this work. Do the work of bringing mindfulness, self-compassion, and skillful communication into your life. Use the resources you have to get support in your mindset shifts and your practices, to build community. If there's no one around you, find the people that can support you in doing this work. And the benefits are amazing. There will still be fear, but you'll learn to let it be. You'll have tools to take care of yourself and to move beyond it. And the benefit is that there will be freedom. The benefit of training ourselves and doing this work with mindfulness, self-compassion, and skillful communication is that there will be freedom. Freedom to not be taken away by that horse and just gallop to wherever we're going, but to choose who you want to be, how you want to show up for your kids. The freedom to be able to bring yourself into the present moment when you choose to not be pushed and pulled by the winds and storms of your reactivity. There's a freedom in dropping out of that, dropping into the present moment, allowing space for all of that, and then choosing the response that you want to have to this. You become the observer, you become the wise voice instead of the screaming banshee. So it's okay if now you feel alone, you feel scared, you feel overwhelmed. There's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you. You are enough as you are. There's just some work to do. There's just some work to do, and it can be joyful work. It's work that's leaning into joy. Find the support, find the practice, find the mindset shifts that you need to move away from this shaming and blaming culture, shaming and blaming yourself, shaming and blaming your kids. We can make space for more joy. We can make space to allow all the emotions, and then really water the seeds of joy, of peace, and have more peace. And even in these crazy, uncertain times, my friend, there's room for joy. There's room for peace. It's always available. It's here as soon as we become really, really present. You're not alone. You are enough. Start with some forgiveness and self-compassion. Offer yourself that kindness that you need and deserve, and then use that energy as a catalyst for growth to do greater things. There's just this crazy one life, We have to decide. And dear younger self, you're making that decision right now. You're deciding how you want to live, how you want to feel each day, what kind of relationship you want to have with your kids. If you don't decide, then you'll get the default, feeling busy, overwhelmed, and irritable. But once you decide, your next actions are clear. So I know as they've come along, my children have been the most important thing in my life. And I made a decision to have a close, nurturing relationship with them. And I know that, so when this habit energy, this habit horse, right, that's galloping away with me of anger, of irritability, of yelling, this is what you need to do, is to take action, to change things, take the reins, take back the power to invest in yourself and how you want to live. And Mary Oliver has that quote, tell me what it is you plan to do with your one wild and precious life. What do you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? Like, this is it. Dear self, thank you. Dear younger self, thank you for doing this work. Thank you for choosing deliberately to focus so much of your energy and time and effort on what matters as you have done this work this was a lot of work. And it's paid off. Things have become easier and easier. And now I have habits and practices that sustain me as life is crazy right now. Life is uncertain and life is hard. There's a lot of anger and a lot of frustration, but I have the tools I need to ground myself. I have what I need. I have the support I need. And I can come into this present moment and then I can see the joy. And there are still storms. There is still fear. And I can learn to let it be. And I have learned to let it be. And there's a freedom in that. And this freedom is powerful. This freedom to choose how to respond, to choose how I want to feel, to choose my relationship with my kids. It's powerful and it makes all the difference in the world. So thank you, younger self, for choosing that. I hope you enjoyed this special bonus episode, a little extra episode for you this week. We'll be back in your regular Tuesday time slot with an awesome interview with Dr. Judy Ho about stopping self-sabotage. But in the meantime, if you would like to do the work that I talk about here in this letter, if you would like to clean the lens of the years of grime, of false beliefs and doubts, if you would like to not let that horse run away with you, but instead choose and decide and have the freedom in your life to choose and decide exactly how you want to respond and to be free from all those limiting beliefs and doubts. That is the work that we do in the Mindful Mama Transformation Coaching Group. So this is an invitation to you, if this is calling to you, to join this small group of support, where you essentially become one of my VIPs. We get to hang out every week for over the course of about 4.5 months and walk you through this path. And it's really, for me, a very heartfelt experience. It's very transformational. It's really some of the work I love to do best. And if this is calling to you, I invite you to learn more at mindfulmamamentor.com/group coaching. It's mindfulmamamentor.com/group coaching. And there should be a link if you, on your podcast player, if you flip over to the notes side, it's usually on the opposite of the play side. And you might find a tab for notes, and then you'll find a link for it, and you can learn more there. And just reach out to me at hunter@mindfulmamamentor.com, and we can get on the phone and talk about it and see if I still have any spots left, because it's a very small group, so it fills up very fast. So if you're interested, don't wait, reach out. And whether you're interested in or not, I'm wishing you a beautiful week. I'm wishing you peace. I'm wishing you some relief from the bad news of the world. I invite you to really look for the good, really look for what to appreciate, be diligent looking for what to appreciate, what you're grateful for. It really helps enormously. And I will be back on Tuesday with an awesome interview. Thank you so much for listening. Of course, if it helps, share it. I really love connecting. I'm so glad that we could share this time together, I feel really honored that you would share all of this time with me. I really feel that connection. And so I really value that connection. Thank you so much for listening. I will be back talking to you soon. Namaste.